All right, welcome back to the International Kindness Festival 2021. Our next guest needs absolutely no introduction. Mahesh Bhupathi will be in conversation with Mahima Poddar. Mahesh, Mahima, over to you.
Good evening, Mahesh, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all our attendees who are joining in from various parts of the world. We have here Mr. Mahesh Bhupathi, multiple Grand Slam winner, and currently he is he's a fully involved dad, and I see that he is. I see from his pictures, and I see from the way he talks about her. He's very fully involved and quite engaged in that. And I am also left with a lot of curiosity as to what kind of messages, in terms of in terms of parenting, in terms of relationships, that he is passing down to his daughter. And on that note, Mahesh, I welcome you, and I would like to start off by asking you about your own journey from childhood until now as a sports person and as a son. What is it that you would like to share with us in terms of probably the struggles or the journey or the learnings that you've had until when you weren't yet a famous sports star, when you were just growing and you were learning?
Hi, thanks for having me, firstly. Yeah, I mean, that's a long answer, honestly. If I had to try and keep it simple, obviously, the tennis racket was put into my hand at a very, very young age by my dad. So, he was a tennis player as well. So he had aspirations and dreams to make his firstborn a tennis player. So, the whole life revolved around tennis, not only for me, but for the entire family, my sister included. Even when we went on vacations, our yearly family vacation was always, the hotel had to have tennis courts, or, there had to be an academy close enough to the hotel where I'd be training, or there'd be tournaments in the vicinity where, they're on vacation and I'm playing tournaments. So, tennis was kind of, for us, way of life from day one. And obviously, there's lots of ups and downs in any professional athlete's career, and you learn a lot. You learn to deal with losses, you learn to deal with wins, and I mean, a lot of life lessons from sport. So I kind of encourage my daughter to play sport because regardless if you end up playing at the highest level, I think winning and losing early in life teaches you a lot of different lessons, which you can't learn in the classroom, in my opinion.
That's true. But I wanted to ask you, Mahesh, as you were growing up, I know you just described how sport focused and oriented, whether your life was, whether it is a vacation or it's your daily existence in every way. So I'm just wondering, what about the so-called friendships and other connections that the rest of us average folks make in the classrooms and everything? How were you getting your connections and deep bonding and friendships? Where were you forming them, and how were they coming into your life, apart from your family, of course?
I mean, I think it's fair to say that all the bonds that I have today are close to 30, 24, 35 years old. All of them come from tennis in some form or the other. Most of my closest friends have all played tennis or aspired to play professional tennis at some point in their lives. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, everything revolved around tennis. So even today, if I were to pick my 5 best friends, I mean, there's definitely a tennis angle to all of them. So, what I missed out in the classroom, I probably made up on the tennis tour. But it's nothing different. I mean, you got a class of 30 kids, trying to kind of study hard and make it to the next grade. At a tennis tournament, you have a group of 50 kids who are trying to beat each other up and win the tournament. The only difference is it's you don't really get a second shot at it in an event, but in class, you always have that chance.
All right. Who would you say have been your biggest supporters, emotionally, psychologically, supporting and encouraging your process throughout your entire journey?
It had to be my parents. I mean, they've seen it from day one, all the ups and downs. And, Tennis is a pretty lonely sport. I mean, you travel alone most of the time. You make friends on tour, but at some level, those friends are also competition. So there's always a fine line, because when you compete with them, you're both of you are very clear that may the best man win. I mean, you might go out for dinner the next night, but at the end of the day, competition is what everyone is there for. So when it came to emotional stability, I think my parents, I mean, there's no two ways about it, because they kept encouraging me at times when even I wanted to quit, and that kind of was a very, very pivotal moment.
And at those times when you wanted to quit and they kind of made you stick to it, did you at that moment in time grudge them for it, or feel mad at them that why are you making me do this? Did you have any of those feelings? And the reason I ask is because parents today, as a parent yourself, sometimes that something's right for your child and you have to kind of help them stick with it. And in our conversation today, there are many youths that have joined in, many youngsters. So I'm sure there's a message in here somewhere that, I will let you take that message forward to them, whatever it is.
Yeah, so I don't think there's a right answer to that. And I constantly debate this with my sister, because, she got the short end of the stick. And today she brings up her two daughters in a certain way, whereas I bring up Saira in a certain way. And I believe that there is, some kind of knowledge I can share with my daughter when it comes to, being a professional tennis player. And that's my IP. And if I can share it with her and she can benefit from it in some way or form, she should. Can I teach her how to play the guitar? Can I teach her how to sing? Can I teach her chemistry? Absolutely not. So I won't even try. But when it comes to tennis, I don't think there's many people in the world who'd have the passion to teach her other than me. So when people ask me, are you forcing her to play? I think the answer is I'm not forcing her, but in a couple of years, when if it clicks, then I'm assuming everyone is going to thank me. So a lot of parents today go with the mentality that let the kid choose their profession, let the kid enjoy doing what they do and see where it goes. And honestly, I think for most professions in the world that works. If you want to be a professional athlete, that does not work unless you start focusing at 6, 7, 8. You have no shot at making it. That's how competitive it is today. That's how hard it is to make it in the world of professional sport. So unless you make a choice and you run with it for at least a decade, there is no shot at making it.
On that note, have you ever faced any difficult choices between your professional sporting life and your personal life? Has there ever been a point where, I don't know, in terms of, personal decisions, in terms of relationships, in terms of friendships, connections, did you feel that there was a time where the choice was tough and you were forced to make one way or the other?
Yeah, they've been many. I mean, even, I decided to retire simply because, it was becoming very hard for me to continue to travel full time, when Saira was in kindergarten. I think when she was born, first year and a half, it was easy to travel with her because she was young. But once she got into kindergarten, she couldn't travel. So for me, I made a choice that, I'd had 18 good years on tour, was another 2-3 years going to make a difference to, the kind of career I already had versus spending quality time with my daughter at home, which, most people said you'll never get those years back. So I, made a conscious effort to kind of dial it down, and I definitely don't regret it.
That's actually a valuable lesson that, sometimes we need to dial one thing down because time does catch up and it's not going to, come by again. And it's a very valuable lesson for a lot of people, a lot of us as parents who we're struggling to find the balance. And I'm beginning to see myself that sometimes the balance is that one side becomes heavier, one side takes more priority, and that is the balance after all, especially when it comes to parenting and, professional life. So, Mahesh, now in terms of we are talking about, this is the Kindness Festival after all, and we wanted to explore from your perspective what it is to be a sports person in, and of course a successful sports person as you are, and how it plays out in terms of your friendships on field and off field, and what your learning lessons have been. Does empathy ever play a role? Is there a place for it in the field of competitive sport?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, in general, if it's part of your DNA, regardless of it's on court or it's off court, I think that shines through. I think prime examples are, the two of the greatest tennis players we've ever seen play are Roger and Rafa. I mean, they are the fiercest competitors on court, and you've seen some of the amazing battles that they've had that gone on for 4 and 5 hours. But after the match, they give each other a warm hug, and I've seen Roger cry on Rafa's shoulder after the Australian Open because he lost. I mean, those are the things that it's very hard to explain, but it obviously goes to show the kind of human beings they are, besides being fierce competitors on the court.
Oh, that's incredible. And what about your own personal views on how have you been able to manage, your own connections with the crowd, with the people, your fans? Let's just, say it, with your fans who come in. Have you ever developed any deeper connections with anybody who came to you? Of course, they're all adoring you. They literally worship, especially our sports people in India. They get worshipped by the fans. So have you ever been in a situation where you were able to make a connection with one of them or some of them, and they look at you as role models? But did that go anywhere at any point?
Yeah, I've made a connection with a lot of them because there's so many of them that constantly came back and supported me at the same event time and time again. For example, I would expect to see their faces at the US Open every year because they were locals in New York, or I'd expect to see the same, few Indians back in the Stockholm Open or at Beijing, So, yeah, I mean, and obviously because, you get to talk to them after the match. I mean, sometimes, go out for dinner. Everyone wants to invite you for a nice home-cooked meal. So, yeah, I think over the last 20 years, there have been some connections that were created definitely on tour.
Are there any amusing anecdotes or stories of, any interactions with your fans that you could share with us? Any amusing interactions?
I mean, no, not the kind of ones you'd find with footballers. I mean, tennis is a little bit of a more mature sport, I would say. So nothing as exciting, but like I said, I mean, I think the fans, I mean, most Indian fans, honestly, around the world, the first thing they do is they say, would you like to come home for a home cooked meal? Or the other one was, we own an Indian restaurant in town. Why don't you guys come and have a good meal? So, it was always because, all of us love eating. So it was always related to food, and obviously nothing better than bonding over food.
Cool. So I wanted to ask you another question, Mahesh. I've heard from several people who are players that playing as single and as a doubles player, it's a world of a different thing. And what are the hardships or the difficulties or the challenges faced by a player in these two different genres?
I think in singles you're alone. I mean, you got to figure out solutions yourself. On the tennis court, when things are not going right, you have no one to kind of lean on or give you advice. In doubles, I think you work as a team, you figure out stuff, you're getting beaten, you come up with solutions, or, sometimes your partner carries you for 20 minutes when you're not feeling good, or you carry your partner. So I think, both forms of the game has its pros and cons.
Okay. Before we proceed, I just want to let our attendees know that you can ask Mahesh any questions. There is a little box to your left bottom corner which says ask questions, and you can type in any questions. And if it comes in on time, I'm very happy to ask Mahesh those questions. So I'm going to move into a little lighter frame, Mahesh, over here, and just ask you some silly questions. So don't mind me, just humor me, play along, please.
Sure.
If you were a crayon in a box, what color would you be?
Black.
Why is that?
That's just my favorite color.
Okay. How would you describe the color yellow to somebody who's blind?
I wouldn't try.
You wouldn't. Okay. All right. Who would win in a fight between Spider-Man and Batman?
I'd say Spider-Man.
And you know what? That's
quicker.
He's quicker.
Yeah.
We ran this series of questions, and Spider-Man and Batman, Spider-Man versus Batman was one of the most popular ones on our social medias. And you know what? Batman won because because he's Batman. Now, how would you convince someone to do something that they didn't want to do?
Well, if I believed in it, I'm a good salesman, so I don't think it would be hard for me.
How would you do it? What's the strategy you would use?
Oh, you got to give me a topic. I mean, I'd have to believe in it, and then I'll make the pitch. So getting people to see things my way hasn't been complicated for me so far, as long as I believe in it.
Okay. All right. So a penguin walks through the door right now wearing a sombrero. A penguin walks through the door wearing a sombrero. What does he say, and why is he here?
He's probably going to say, "Wake up, you're dreaming."
Wake up, you're dreaming. Okay. All right. How would you rate your memory? On a scale of 1 to 10. Sorry?
I said A+.
A+. How would your wife rate your memory?
Yeah. I certainly hope A+.
And okay, when you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. All right. If there was a movie that was made after you, what would it be called?
Indian Express.
Indian Express. Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Now, apart from the obvious, what else are you known for?
Not much, actually. Like you said, stay-at-home dad now.
Stay-at-home dad. Okay. And I think that's a wonderful thing. What inspires you, Mahesh?
I'm inspired by a lot. I mean, I get inspired by seeing success stories all the time, from sport to business to even, something like ISRO. So, when you've achieved something that you worked all your life for, I think you appreciate success a little more and understand how much work people would have put into, making that success possible.
Okay. So who would you say is the kindest person that you know?
Probably my mom.
Your mom? It's so interesting. It's so interesting, Mahesh, because we ran this little campaign where we got several kids and several adults separately, and we asked them the same question: who do you think is the kindest person? And we asked the same question to the kids, and the adults were saying things like Mother Teresa and picking this great sage or someone or the other. And when you asked the children, their standard answer was mom. Their standard answer was mom. Really, I found that very interesting that you said that too.
So you're categorizing me in the kids section then?
Well, I think we're all children at heart.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you one last question, Mahesh, and I want to know, what is the kindest thing someone has done for you in the recent times? What do you remember as the kindest thing that someone has done for you in the recent times?
I think that's a tough one to answer. I have to think about that.
Maybe let me tweak that a bit. What is the an act of kindness that you have seen on court?
On court act of kindness, I mean, on court, we're trying to beat the hell out of each other all the time. So, I mean, act of kindness, I mean, nobody is giving away any freebies on the court. I mean, you even when you get a close line call, you play by the umpire. I mean, that's regardless of how close a friend you're playing against. I mean, that's just an unwritten rule. So, I mean, I don't think that affects the friendships off the court at all, because, like I said, it's an unwritten rule. But act of kindness on court nobody gives away any points, to be honest, in any sport.
Okay, all right. So we have a question from a couple of viewers. There's one from Mishi Nambia, and Mishi wants to know, how do you handle politics in the sport? How do you stay focused in unfair times?
It's tough. You try to just kind of block it out and do what you trained all your life to do, which is play the sport. And I've got to a level where I ignore it now, and I don't even want to deal with it. If they call me, I most of the time don't even answer the phone. So, I mean, it's frustrating, but at the end of the day, it's part and parcel of Indian sport across sports. So, unfortunately, that's the way our country is.
Mm-hmm. So, your policy towards it is just to block it out.
Yeah, I mean, every athlete needs to block it out. If they get involved in politics or sport, it's going to affect their sport.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so we're waiting for a couple more questions to pop up. I know that people have typed it in, but because the platform is a little, it has a few seconds lag. So let me ask you, while those questions are still coming in, Mahesh, what is a message you want to give to your daughter? Supposing, let's assume we are 20 years ahead in time, and what is the message you want to give for that 20-year-old daughter of yours? And what would you say to her for life, not just for sport? What's the life message for
her? She's 30 years old. I mean, I would just hope that she was in a happy place and she was working as hard as she could possibly do. I mean, I'm a big believer that, hard work always breeds success at some point. And, that's the kind of upbringing we're trying to install into her. So, as long as she works hard, regardless of what she chooses to do, I think she'll be in a good space.
Mm-hmm. And to flip that around, what message do you have if you could send back a message to your 10-year-old self?
Probably work a little harder, a lot harder actually.
Harder, okay.
I felt like I cheated a lot of times when I was growing up, which, if I look back at it now, I wish I didn't.
Well, for someone who cheated, I think you've come a long way. You're doing pretty well. You've done pretty well. So I wonder what would have happened if you'd worked harder. I really wish, I really wonder what could have happened, because you've already done us Indians very proud, and we're very appreciative and very grateful for that. Right. Thank you so much for being here, Mahesh.
Thanks a lot.
It's an honor. And
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Okay.
Thanks.
Over to you, Suresh.
All right. Thank you, Mahesh. Thank you, Mahima. That was an enlightening interview. I specifically like the question about the penguin in the sombrero. I want to know where that question came from.